The Breaking Bitcoin show is back on YouTube just in time to cover today's wild volatility in the markets, with Bitcoin swinging indecisively around the upper $8,000 range. Today, scalpers are having a field day while investors are reeling from a sense of whiplash following the dramatic market movements of last week. Yesterday, Monday, gave way to a record-setting rebound, but we're not in the clear yet. While global markets opened on Tuesday with positive momentum, thanks in part to finance officials from G7 nations stating they will stand ready to take action on the emerging crisis, the renewed investor confidence flipped to disappointment early this morning, however, concerning a lack of an immediate fiscal intervention, followed by a surprise move from the Fed a few hours later when it announced an emergency rate cut by 50 basis points. Will this stem the tide of the sell-off? Find out in today's episode of Breaking Bitcoin. Welcome back to Breaking Bitcoin, recorded live Tuesday, March 3rd, 2020. This is your daily source for market updates, sentiment, and news for traders. I hope everyone watching today on YouTube, Twitch, DLive, Facebook Live, and of course on Roku with the Investor News Channel app is doing fantastic. Make sure to follow us on Twitter to stay up to date. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel with bell notifications so you never miss an episode. We've got a fantastic show for you guys today. If you have any questions, please drop them in the live chat. The moderators will direct my attention to them in the Q&A segment. With that being said, let's waste no time. Let's get right to the charts for today's analysis section. All right, here we are in the live scene. As we are wont to do, you'll have to pardon me, looking at some FOREX, well, I'll have to stray from utilizing certain words. Anyways, here we are on the daily time frame of Bitcoin. Here on the daily, we are having a down day as we've retraced about 50% of yesterday's bullish movement. And I think today's market movements, I think overall today's volatility can best be characterized by a few things. A, Bitcoin as a risk on asset being kind of tossed around by individuals that are positioned in the market, looking at overall what the global markets are doing. Obviously, the SPY oscillating, but having an interesting day. We'll take a look at that here in just a second. Again, overall, I feel at this point in time, Bitcoin will, unfortunately, depending on your perspective, largely move in whatever direction the SPY decides to move. I think that if investor confidence is good and that momentary rate cut by the Fed does stem the tide, I think that we can actually see a week, possibly longer, of a little bit of renewed confidence and some reactionary buyback. Overall, my feelings on the global markets are bearish. I do think that we are going to be seeing much bigger pullbacks, essentially across the board. I think that we are far away from historical trend lines. I think that we are far away from historical averages or means. And I think that when an individual is looking to establish buy and hold positions, a savvy investor who has been taking heed to this, who has been stocking up on gold, who has been stocking up on SH, who has been positioning themselves differently in the market, stands to have fantastic discounts when, as we proceed further and further into this global pullback. So looking at things like ETFs or even looking at things like individual stocks, I think, again, historicity has proved that buy and hold strategies on that produce the most consistent results and are an excellent addition to one's trading activities on top of trading, but we'll get to that later. But do I think that this is kind of the extent of the pullback? No, I don't. I think that the Fed slashing rates emergently can have a positive effect on the market, but I do not think that it will be enough to stem the tide, as essentially the Fed doesn't have a lot of ammunition left. They used up a lot of their, recession ammunition in a bull market, right? As senior analyst Alex succinctly pointed out to me yesterday. And that's the truth. I mean, the Fed doesn't have a lot of bullets left. If the market continues to dip, what are they going to do? Negative interest rates? What is that going to do for investor confidence? That is going to send markets screaming. And again, as I said, as long as fear continues to be a dominating force in the markets, price will continue to go down overall. But again, don't discount the effect that a momentary intervention from the Fed can do by boosting the price up. But again, at the end of the day, the Fed cannot directly boost the price of assets, or will not directly boost the price of assets. They can just slash interest rates. They do not have many tools available to them. They can print money. They've done too much of that, and they can cut interest rates. They've already done too much of that. So they don't have a whole lot of ammunition left. All right. So, but let's get into trading. Let's look at what we have going on. We'll get rid of that for right now. We'll switch over to the weekly chart as we are wont to do. We covered the monthly chart yesterday. Yesterday was, honestly, we just went for an hour on analysis. So make sure to check out yesterday's video, at least the analysis section, to get your macro right for the upcoming month of March. I talked about what I expect to see this month, overall where we are, what are the important levels moving forward into this month, what do we need to see on a macro time frame. And things of that nature. So I think that's a very good. You always want to start from the highest possible time frame that you think is relevant for your decision making and work your way down to the meso or even the micro, so that you are, again, the most important thing is always trading in the correct direction. If you have your directional bias correct, then I think that you're going to be much more successful. All right, so we are going to just briefly look at the monthly. Overall, the monthly so far has been positive. We have had a reactionary buyback after the retracement of February's candle. We looked at the volume on the monthly candle. We looked at the levels of the monthly candle. Overall, is this in and of itself a bearish signal? No, it's really not. Again, it is occurring in an overall downtrend. We have broken above any kind of resistant downtrends on the monthly time frame, though, and we are currently still above that. Things are actually looking healthy, on the monthly. Significant levels that I pointed out yesterday. We do not want to see price close below 8,200. As long as we are holding 8,200, we can expect consolidation. Of course, there will be movements to the downside, but overall, again, as I said earlier, I think we can kind of characterize the current price consolidation as the battle for the 200 simple moving average, shall we say. The battle for the 200 simple moving average. Going to the weekly time frame, again, very negative weekly close. Very large retracement on the weekly, closing down about 14%. Large weekly candle to the negative. But again, we also pointed out several areas here. Monthly shelves that we pointed out and talked about that we are still holding. Again, that very interesting level on the monthly time frame is 82.98. That has fantastic correlation with other, for example, moving averages and other significant levels of support. Volume profile as well on the monthly and weekly time frame. So for me, anyways, when I look at the most important things, holding 8,200 is important. All right, holding 8,200 is important, and closing the monthly back above, whether it's this month or whether it's next month or whether it's the month after that, but eventually getting a monthly close back above the monthly open or our current high monthly close, which is going to be 93.39. Getting a monthly close back above that will be very positive for Bitcoin's price, and we can really kind of get more bullish or really get frothy again, right? Again, frothy is something you want to be a little iffy about, but you guys get my point. Anyways, going to the weekly time frame, let's look at our significant moving averages. And again, we are currently holding the SMA 23. We are not currently holding the Hall moving average 30 on the weekly time frame. We want to get back above that as well, back above 8,900. That's also where the EMA 13 is as well at 88.56. Again, important levels to watch here are going to be the 55 exponential moving average. Now, again, same kind of confluence with that monthly shelf coming in at 81.77. I honestly do think that if we close the weekly below 81.77, we are going to be in for some more downturn, right? Now, I do not think we're going to see price below 5,600. Now, here on the Bitstamp chart, the 200 simple moving average on the weekly is actually at 54.82. On Coinbase, it is closer to 5,600. But overall, I think that is going to be as low as price goes. That has a high likelihood to happen, unfortunately, if we lose the 55 here on the weekly time frame. And I think we will get the 1355 cross under. Maybe not. Maybe we can foretell that. Maybe it will be a very rapid move down and a more quick buy up. But again, we do not want to lose 8,200 on the weekly. But as long as we're above it, we're good. Overall, we're going to have to really kind of watch. This is where, as a Bitcoin trader, you do want to be watching global markets. You do want to be watching what's going on the global event. Unfortunately, we have a lot of money in Bitcoin that is going to be risk on asset allocation. And that is going to be the first stuff that gets pulled if investors feel a more significant market downturn. And I think that is likely to happen, unfortunately. I think that there is an opportunity. I think that there is a possibility that Bitcoin's price moves up while global markets move down. As I said, Bitcoin has a very unique position here to do something that it was intended to do. We can see how it performs as an asset, as a store of value. Will individuals flock into Bitcoin? Will individuals view Bitcoin as a store of value, as sound money? Will investors begin to put their money in Bitcoin as a hedge against traditional markets? I hope so. But unfortunately, only a decade into the Bitcoin experiment, I feel that is unlikely to happen with the level of panic, at least the level of fear that I'm seeing on the global market scene. But again, fingers crossed, we are still macro bullish as long as we're above these levels. Again, this is verified also This is verified also by the Ichimoku system. Here on the weekly time frame, we are currently finding support on the lower boundary of the Kumo cloud. Again, losing that as well would be an early sign to be slightly concerned. Again, I have one of our junior analysts does trade the Ichimoku system, is very faithful to that, and this is overall the exit signal that he's watching for, is closing the weekly candle below that and losing that bullish macro trend. But so far, we've had our edge-to-edge trade. We did reference this a while ago when we closed below the upper boundary of the Kumo cloud. This is an edge-to-edge trade. We had a potential Kumo breakout that was invalidated on the very next weekly close when we closed back inside the cloud, edge-to-edge trade to the bottom lip of the cloud. So I do think that at-risk shorters, again, very much like myself, are risk off right now. We are not actively short. And if we are to short again, we would be looking for a very objective signal, i.e. losing significant levels here on the monthly or weekly, which would foretell a more significant downtrend. Again, the market is largely, I think that the savvy investors are largely flat right now. I think, again, myself, I've taken an at-risk long on Bitcoin, looking for this bottom feeder signal to germinate and play out. We talked about that all of last week, or moving into last week, to the close of last week. So I think that the risk is there, the opportunity is there, obviously, for longs like we accumulated at the local bottom here, and we'll look for that to play out. Again, I do expect to see consolidation. I do not expect an immediate breakdown at this level. I kind of expect Bitcoin's price to be frustrating over the next few weeks for individuals looking for that huge, big trending movement, and we will just go in whichever direction price decides to move. That's how we trade. That's how we do what we do. Looking at weekly momentum, of course, weekly momentum is still pointed down. Time transformation is pointed down. Trending minks has not crossed under to the downside. More sensitive minks, our reactive minks, is down at the zero line, as is time transformation. So what's very interesting here is going to see what happens over the next 2 weeks. If we were to get a crossover, that would be a continuation signal on the weekly time frame. A continuation signal on the weekly time frame at this point in time would actually be pointing us up. Let's get our indicator on here. A weekly continuation signal on the weekly time frame at this point in time would actually be pointing us up. So let's get Quadriga loaded up here. That would be pointing us up toward 97.77 initially, 10.834, and almost 12,000, 11,881. So good signals. That would be calling for an overcome. That would be calling for a reclamation of the highs and a retest of the previous distribution range. And here's the thing about, distribution ranges on weekly timeframes. We can see the markup phase, we can see the distribution phase, and we can see the markdown phase. And now we've had a surge back up to that distribution level. We have sold off from that. Now, if we continue to go down, that will just be a confirmation of this Wyckoff cycle where we have a markup, distribution, mark down, eventually accumulation, mark up, and so on and so forth. This is the Wyckoff market cycle. And again, Wyckoff would have accurately predicted this again as a retreat back to distribution and a rejection. However, if we do rally at this point in time and go back up into the distribution area, then that will be invalidated and we will likely reaccumulate and continue to move on up in preparation for Bitcoin's halving event. Let's keep that in mind. That is very important. While we're also here, we will look at the volume profile levels here on the weekly time frame. And we will start from right here, as we are wont to do. Make sure that we are in logarithmic scale. Again, where have we currently found support? We currently found support on that shelf. 83.18 is where that shelf starts. It does stretch down to 78.65. I don't want to see that. I think that that's going to be wrong. I don't think that if we actually drop back inside that shelf, that would be a good or healthy saying. So again, that is just lending confluence to that $8,200 level. We can see it very clearly here. As I've drawn out the lines, these actually come from the monthly time frame. Now, the only possible area that I think would be interesting were we to lose 8,200. There is one opportunity here at 77.10. That is a low volume node. We could see price go down there on the daily and then come up from there. But again, should we lose that weekly level, that $8,200 shelf, that monthly shelf, I do think that we are going to be in for a more significant retreat. But again, overall, that's actually not what I'm predicting. I'm just being prepared should that happen. I actually think my overall bias is that we hit this bottom feeder target because the price is going to consolidate. So it might take a few days, but certainly we are going to trade higher than on the daily. GBU Professor Wally, thank you so much for the $50, my friend. He says, this is for your YouTube bribery budget. Good to see you back. Thank you so much for the support, my friend. Shout out to you and Gunbot University. So overall, I'm actually expecting higher prices overall. I'm not fully confident of that. I do think that we're going to see consolidation here. And again, very sensitive traders like myself, we're going to watch that consolidation very carefully and wait for the objective signal on the breakout. Or again, should we be invalidated overall in my bias here and we break to the downside? Well, I don't argue. I simply take the trade in that direction. We talked about this, if you'll recall, with the dollar won, right? Let's look at the dollar won chart real quick. And let's pull it up on the daily, and we'll talk about my active trade on the dollar won. I am actually short on the dollar won right now. I talked about this all of last week. I said that I caught a couple of profitable longs to the upside as we broke above the breaking Bitcoin indicator here, took these signals, profited on the majority of this movement to the upside on the dollar won. And I was bullish for another push. I was like, there's no way that the won is going to value over the dollar. The dollar is going to blast this thing down. But I was wrong, right? And price broke the trend, gave the short signal 2 days ago. And what did I do as a systems trader? I took the short. So you cannot let your directional bias interfere with your objective system as a trader, because that will get you in trouble every single time. I've built the system. I know how the system works. I trade the system. I trust the system. And this is what all systems traders do. Most traders will listen to their bias over their system, and what will they do? They will get themselves in losing trades or in positions they don't want to be in. All right. Now, getting back to Bitcoin. All right, so we were on the weekly looking at that. I think we've summarized that quite well. Let's get down to the daily and overall look at where we are. On the daily time frame, we're still risk off for shorts. Why is that? We got the exit signal from time transformation on yesterday's candle and from the breaking Bitcoin indicator. We are currently above the continuation filter. This means that daily trending shorts are not valid right now. We need to close the daily below 84.82, and the system will be predicting that we will thus lose that $8,200 level. So we'll be in early for that movement. So 84.82 on the daily for a trader, that's the level to watch. Again, currently we want to close the daily above the previous daily close. This retracement overall does not surprise me. There's a lot of global events going on right now, and price is going to be very sensitive to that. You cannot, listen, as a trend following trader, yes, we can ignore those fundamental events. But here's the thing. As a systems trader, my trades are generated by my system. Yesterday, I was told to exit shorts. That's what I did. Yesterday, over the course of last week, I was told to take long positions due to the bottom feeder signal. I have done that. The take profit has not actually hit on that. We came very, very close yesterday on yesterday's daily close, reaching a high of 89.80. We actually needed to be about $3 higher. So again, depending on where you positioned in, it's very quite possible that individuals taking the signal actually have hit their take profit and maybe have been risk out. I'm not. I'm a stickler for details. So we missed it by $3. I'm going to wait for that $3. Watch you, yes sirree. The nice thing also is that I'll have invalidation of that trade should we descend back down into the depths of Cthulhu here, because as you can see, stop loss currently sitting at 78.43. That's where we're resting at. However, the point of this is that our continuation filter will guide our hand here in what to do. So overall, bottom feeder is signaling for higher prices, but we have to be very, very clear about what bottom feeder does and does not do. Bottom feeder is designed to generate profitable trades. It is not designed to say, this is the bottom, we can't go any lower. It's saying, hey, this is a local bottom, here's an opportunity, price is going to move up, which it certainly did, missing TP by only $3, which I think that will hit that take profit. That's fine. I'm going to hold this. And again, overall consolidation, the battle for the 200 simple moving average. But it does not necessarily mean that we will not go any lower, right? And when we descend lower, we'll get further signals and we'll take that opportunity and we'll take that opportunity. And then when price proves that it's macro, that we're trending on the daily back up to the upside, we'll go long. It's that simple. All right. So back to the breaking Bitcoin system. Very simple here. Still getting negative Wada Atar volume volume divergence here, volume delta, still negative delta. The explosion level is no longer rising. It was not rising on yesterday's candle, which makes sense. So again, this is kind of presaging consolidation. Time transformation has crossed back up, recovered below the oversold territory. Let's watch that closely and see what it does. Overall, what we do need to see for a daily bullish trending signal is price closing above the daily, price closing above 99.31 on the daily to be very, very, very bullish and be generating trending long setups at this point in time. All right, let's go and look at our moving averages. As I said, battle for the 200 simple moving average. Here we are consolidating at the 200 simple moving average, consolidating around the Hall moving average 30. I will say that there is one negative thing that I'm seeing today on the daily. That is the 1355 exponential moving average cross under. It is occurring on the daily. It will confirm today. So that, if you are utilizing that system, again, it tells you in which direction to trade overall. But what can we see? We can see several things when we get that cross under. We can see price retreat, or we can see follow through. So one thing to keep in mind on, if you are going to be trading that signal, I will go ahead and grab the TPs for you. Current short daily position would be stretching you down to 74.54 ultimate target, with brief stops at 78.77 and 83.09 and validation at 93.55. Essentially the previous reaccumulation cluster here and breakdown cluster right there. Now what's interesting is we did move down on high momentum, so that order block sitting up there right around, again, 93.55 I think has a high probability to be hit, so I'd be a little cautious looking at the signal. But again, there that it is. Going back to our moving averages. So there we are, overall battle for the 200 simple moving average, 55 EMA sitting up at 90.67 and currently 13 EMA sitting at 90.57. Let's look at Ichimoku on the daily. Ichimoku on the daily, we are still trading inside the bullish cloud. The future cloud has not twisted to the downside. This overall generally means that one should sit on their hands. We did get a great Tenkan Kijun cross under signal on this candle right here, the exact same candle. I took my continuation short and we profited from this movement to the downside. So good signal coming in from the Ichimoku trading system. Again, trading inside the cloud means that price is consolidating and one should generally sit on their hands. And I think that overall, I think that's the right behavior, the right decision. Generally risk off, watching closely to see how this next market moves. And if one has a profitable reversion to the mean strategy, we'll look at that on the Bybit chart. I think this would be the time to turn them on. Looking at momentum on the daily, again, trending minks is curling back up to the upside, which would signal to exit short positions. Sensitive time transformation and sensitive minks have already curled back up and are pointed upwards. That's about all we have here on the daily time frame. Let's go ahead and hop over now to the Bybit chart, where I do have an active long position. There we go. All right, so here we are on the 15-minute chart. Bitcoin has established this consolidation range, roughly from 88.01 to 86.42. Let me go ahead and save this and refresh. So there we go. So what can we see? We can see that essentially in a consolidation range, in a trading range, one typically, if one is trading on the lower time frames, sell above that range and sell below, and you're typically only going to be wrong once, and that's when price actually breaks the range. So again, we are back in the range, which is typically a no trade zone. The cents down closer to 84, 85 are going to represent buying opportunities to retake price back up to 88, 8900, back above the range. Again, in the range, generally a no trade zone, and this range would have done pretty well for you. We can also see this from volatility expander. We can see this from Bollinger Bands, for example. If we look at the 4-hour. Again, exact same thing here. Hourly might have been a little bit more generous for us here. Buying opportunities below the Bollinger Band, selling opportunities above, buying opportunities below potentially, and selling above is one way to do it. Not a big fan of this. Again, I'm generally going to prefer volatility expander or ATR bands, which I think are a little bit more sensitive, but it's not a terrible way to do things. It's not a terrible way to do things. The thing is, and people have to understand this about simple strategies like this, Bollinger Band RSI strategies, for example, is a very popular strategy that you'll see on 3 commas or all of these automated platforms. You have to be very careful about them because they do well in certain market environments, but you have to have the experience and the nuance to know when to turn them on and off. Right? You do not want a Bollinger Band RSI strategy. If price is trending, you're going to lose money. So that's pretty simple for me. That pretty much covers where we're at with Bitcoin's price. We're in an established range. We're watching for a break of that range. I am still holding at-risk longs for that upside target of around 8,900, looking for that to get hit over the next few days. Not really concerned if price descends back down into the 85s, 86s, 84s over the next few days. I think that price is likely to oscillate. I'm only going to be concerned if we close a higher time frame candle below these significant levels of support that would usher me down, right? And I'll be a little bit more sensitive to that with the daily 1355 cross under that we just got today. Overall, I think that doesn't invalidate the consolidation. I see that we are at the 200 simple moving average, so I can see us consolidating. I think this is natural after such a large move down. Again, we are trying to hold this level as support. Bulls are trying to hold this level as support, trying to take price higher, and individuals are still attempting to redistribute. So we're going to see who wins the battle of the order book. We have to see who wins. Overall, price is in a no trade zone on multiple metrics. So we're just being patient. We've just taken profit on a very nice short position. So we want to be patient, sit on our hands overall, and wait for the proper trending movement to the upside or downside. Okay. With that being said, overall, Ethereum is in a similar boat. Ethereum as well, getting a movement to the downside. Let's look over here on BitMEX at Ethereum. Over here on the daily time frame, let's bring up the breaking Bitcoin indicator. Now, what's interesting about Ethereum is that Ethereum never actually signaled to exit shorts, at least the USD pair. The BTC pair is different. The BTC pair, excuse me, the BTC pair did get some increased volatility coming up to the continuation filter and rejecting. I apologize. We did actually, yes, get an exit signal for even FUSD shorts on yesterday's daily close. However, we are still below the continuation filter. So upon a momentum signal, so if time transformation crosses down or Minx crosses back down, that would be a continuation signal to continue to take Ethereum to the downside. Again, currently trading at 223. Price closing the daily above 231.60 is going to invalidate shorts at this point in time. We need to get all the way back above 284 before we're trending to the upside on the daily time frame. So we do need to be patient. We are still getting negative volume delta on Water explosion and a rising explosion level, meaning the volatility is still quite high. Again, overall, looking at more momentum, we can see that trending Minx has not crossed back up to the upside. It is starting to curl up, but it's quite slow. Or excuse me, not that it's quite slow, but it's trending. So it's going to call trends. It's going to confirm trending movement so you know in what direction to trade in. So again, overall, time transformation exit signal, sensitive Minx exit signal. So again, Ethereum, same kind of consolidation area right here. Overall, no trade zone. Let's take a look at our significant moving averages here on the daily time frame. Battle for the 55 EMA here on Ethereum USD. And I do think that if we lose 214, we are likely to go down and test the 200 simple moving average on the daily here down at 179. Again, this could be my if Bitcoin kind of leads the way, or if one views Ethereum as a leading indicator, whichever one breaks a significant level first, I think the other will follow. So very important to kind of keep your eyes on this and watch this closely. Small 23 sitting up at 250.55, Hall moving average 30, sitting at 234.10 and curling down to us. Taking a look at Ichimoku here on the daily. We have had a TK cross under. We do have the Kumo cloud below us. That's going to give us some nice confluence with that 200 simple moving average as well. It's going to be a straight line down. That's going to be giving us an edge-to-edge trade because we do have support below us in the form of a bullish Kumo cloud, which has not begun to twist to the downside. But we can see if we kind of project out 3 days, we have the shelf right around 199, stretching down a little bit below 200, I think is possible here on Ethereum on a continued bearish movement to the downside. And then what do we have? We have an edge-to-edge trade over 2 days down to the simple moving average 200 at 179.50. And again, we'll reevaluate there. Bitcoin is already there because Bitcoin has been more bullish. Ethereum is kind of lagging behind overall year-to-date growth, right? Annum growth. So. Other major Bybit pairs, XRP is in a similar situation as ETHUSD. Overall, no trade zone, signal to exit shorts on yesterday's candle. Closing above 0.2391 will put us in a no trade zone. And we would be looking for that and then getting the trending signal to the upside. Or we would be looking for a continuation signal to the downside to take XRP lower, absolutely below 20 cents. On the short signal at this point in time. Need to get price above 29 cents to be taking trending longs to the upside. EOS USD, no different. Exit signal yesterday, closing above the continuation filter and getting the time transformation exit on EOS USD here, closing back below $3.45 at this point in time, would be flipping us back short. We do need to close above $4.50 to be getting long again on EOS. Looking over at our BTC pairs here on BitMEX, again, very similar as well that we talked about. BCH, very similar to EOS and Bitcoin in the sense that we have gotten the exit signal, so we're in a no trade zone on Bitcoin Cash. EOS, the BTC pair has not given you the exit signal on shorts yet. Ethereum H20, again, consolidating in this lower range, dropping back down to the bottom of the range today, but no continuation signal possible. To watch the daily close for one potentially on an ETH-BTC short. LTC H20, exit signal on the daily today. TRX H20, exit signal yesterday. XRP H20, exit signal a few days ago. And overall consolidating. It does look like the BTC pairs want to make a push for it, which would not surprise me if Bitcoin remains stable here looking at our altcoin markets. We can see the follow through. If we go over and look at crypto bubbles, I want to say happy birthday to crypto bubbles today. Again, we do have some impressive movements coming in here from CKB, HNS, Celsius, Ant, Steemit, and Blockstacks up 2% today. But overall, a red day in the market. Now, NXS is not on this list, but NXS did have a good movement today. NXS was called by junior analyst Jason yesterday. All of his PTP systems were firing at the daily close yesterday, and it went on a run, hitting all three of his posted take profits. Let's look at NXS BTC. Hitting all three of his take profits, netting 16% on the trade after his trailing take profit activated. Nexus with a market capitalization of 14.6 million, which would be about 1,700 Bitcoin, 24-hour volume high of about 1.5 million. So definitely one to watch potentially for the scalpers today. Circulating supply of about 64.6 million, a max supply of 78 million. So almost close to that limit there. But again, very huge wick to the upside, large rejection. Overall, I would be watching for this to hold. It's possible that we get higher prices on NXS BTC over the next few days. We do have kind of that daily signal today as well. Now, we are a little bit above the baseline, so maybe lower risk, maybe 1% trade overall on the daily, but the R to R is there, seeing as how far we've retraced on the daily. Looking down at the 15, again, you can see this big sell-off coming in from NXS today. Even the 15-minute chart is still bullish, possibly watching this. I don't really want to see price below 24.19, but as long as we hold that, possible to get some continuation moving forward over the next couple of days. Ant BTC as well. Mr. Aragon here. It's been a little too overextended to look at taking a full risk position. It did signal a continuation long on the daily 3 days ago, which if taken would have had to be at reduced risk because of its distance away from the baseline. However, that continuation signal still would have hit take profit one already. Right here, it still would have hit take profit one already, but sometimes you just do not catch them perfectly, at least not this particular trade right there. But overall, good movement from the BTC pairs, stacking those sats. Aragon today with a market capitalization of 44.3 million, about 5,073 Bitcoin, 24-hour volume of $590,000. So decent volume there for the retail trader to get in and get some activity. Circulating supply of 32.8 million. Aragon total supply of 39.6. And the other big mover of the day is going to be Celsius BTC. Now Celsius BTC is potentially going to be crossing above the baseline on the daily. It is kind of looking good so far. Definitely one to put on your watch list. It could be giving a PTP long signal this week. Not yet, but one to put on the watch list. Market capitalization of 29.48 million. That's about 3,300 BTC. 24-hour volume of only $175,000. So not large orders on this one. Unfortunately, it's just not going to sustain it. Got a circulating supply of about 238 million, total supply of almost 700 million Celsius in total there. So market to watch, something interesting here to keep our eyes on, Celsius BTC. Let's look at the broader global market here today, looking at our ETFs. Where's the SPY trading at? SPY is having a down day. SPY trading at 302.83. Let's go down and actually see intraday what has occurred here. All right, let's find the market open right here. So again, market opened up to the downside, having a nice spike to the upside. We can actually see Bitcoin kind of follow this exact same path. We did have this very large sell-off, followed by this nice rounded movement to the downside. This is overall not bullish. I do not like to see this. I would actually be expecting lower prices on the SPY today. Again, something to watch though is generally what I would be watching for today on the SPY is for us to overcome the resistance that we formed at 310.73 to see if we can't carry prices higher. Again, it's very interesting to see how the market is going to respond to the rate cuts. With the Fed announcing that emergency rate cut, I would overall expect the price would move up, but I don't think that the market's going to have the follow through we want, at least not intraday. Now, again, something to be aware of is that I do think that we're going to get more significant pullbacks on the SPY. I think that we're going to get more significant pullbacks on most of our ETFs, on most of our stocks. I do think that we are moving into more of a bearish, not more of a bearish trend. That's a little amorphous. That's a little nebulous. I think that we're going to see pullbacks across the board. I don't think that the bloodbath has ended. When it comes to cryptocurrency, I am ambivalent as far as how that will follow. I think that the Bitcoin will follow the SPY today, but we're going to see if we can untether and become uncorrelated as an off-risk asset, okay? So we'll see. Again, we do have a little bit of shelf of support here, down around 303. Obviously, SPY reacting to that. But again, I do not like to see that large sell-off on high volume, that very weak movement to the upside, and then that rounded movement back down to that same level of support. That's two tests now on that level of support. I would actually expect this to break, and I would expect to see prices down around maybe 292 today, unless, of course, we can rally and close above 311. But I would still not be very bullish on the SPY at this point in time, especially not to trade it to the upside. Yeah, propping the market up on straws. ETFs that I'm watching right now are going to be Gush and Drip. Again, very big volatility in the oil markets lately. Again, lovely movements from Gush. If you want to go long on oil, that's going to be Gush. If you want to go short on oil, that's Drip. These are ETFs that you can trade. So if you're an American, you don't have access to CFDs. Let's look at these through the lens of PTP. Obviously, looking at Gush here, we are in a bearish trend. We did get the short signal over here on the 24th of February, moving us down for a nice movement. No exit signal yet. So so not holding a position in Gush is absolutely valid. Let's look at the movements on Drip, although, for the other hand, because it's not directly correlated. It's not, Drip is not an inverse of Gush, right? Which is pretty cool. They're completely different ETFs. Gush giving a nice, beautiful long signal over here on the 24th of February. Absolutely fantastic movement. And here's the cool thing. No exit signal yet. So longs on Drip are valid above 164.96. Would absolutely be watching this. Up gold, interestingly enough, even though the CFD on gold is going to be different from this, if we look at up gold right now, we are going to be getting a signal to go long. Now, it's not perfect yet. We do need to look at WADA tar explosion, rising explosion level, nice green column, but it's a little short. We need to get WADA above 38.78 to be going long again on up gold. This is a very interesting reactionary movement. Down gold, although, is going to be giving a signal here. We have the time transformation cross under, we are below the baseline, and we have the volume and momentum here from down gold, okay? So, let's correlate that a little bit more closely, right? You cannot short down gold. At least I wouldn't. So up gold, potentially, if you want to be a little riskier, I'm not going to, but I think that if you wanted to be a little riskier, you could look at the momentum on the signal from down gold and potentially carry that over to up gold. If you were to take up gold at this point in time without the further confirmation, I have to insist that you take it at least half risk up gold. All right. QQQ in a no trade zone, NUGT Nugget as well in a no trade zone as well, breaking above the continuation filter, setting us up for a reversal baseline, a bounce potentially, but again, I don't not going to get into all that. Moving on. Green list. Let's look at the Forex markets right now. We'll just take a look at currently open trades. Yes, still long on the euro pound. Go, baby, go. Nice hanging man candle pattern today. We have not gotten the exit signal. Longs are invalid below not 0.85585. So overall, looking good and healthy. Yes, quite overextended. Can this thing continue to run? Absolutely. Is this a time to get into the euro pound? Absolutely not. Is it a time to short it? No, it's not. This is a time to hold your trending long trade open. I have a trailing stop loss on euro pound, and let's see what we get out of this. The Aussie Swissy, we've been short on this for a while. We are getting the exit signal today, so I will be exiting my Aussie Swissy trade. The pound Swissy is giving us a nice doji on the daily, but no exit signal, so we will continue to hold this one short. The dollar yen is the gift, is a gift that keeps on giving right now. Been short on the dollar yen for 3 days now and getting a fantastic movement follow through to the downside on this. We already talked about the dollar won, the pound Aussie. The pound Aussie I took short yesterday, getting nice follow through. The Aussie Kiwi I took to the long side. Now the only trade that I put on yesterday that is now giving me putting me in drawdown, not an exit signal though, is going to be the Kiwi CAD. So we'll watch this one closely. There are a few factors that we need to look at daily close that might be exiting us out of the Kiwi CAD. I took lower risk both on the Aussie Kiwi and the Kiwi CAD because I was doing cross-currency speculation. Obviously, anybody who trades Forex can see that. I went long on the Aussie Kiwi and I shorted the Kiwi CAD, looking for that continuation movement out of the Kiwi CAD. The Aussie Kiwi has moved in my favor. The Kiwi CAD has not, so I did that on purpose. Now I can close the loser out and let the winner run, which I'm assuming is actually going to be the Aussie Kiwi. And yes, I do have that at-risk long position on Bitcoin, which I accumulated over these 3 days, averaging myself down into a nice position. So we'll watch those markets fairly closely. Yeah, and that's kind of all I got. It's kind of all I got, all I'm watching. I am watching Upgold and Drip. Looking over at sensor charts today, we do have more volume to the sell side over the last hour than the buy side. We are on the wrong side of the trending EMA here on the 5-minute time frame on sensor charts, trending to the downside price at 86.90. We have our first little bit of support coming in at 86.60 to 86.50 in the form of about 220 Bitcoins. Down below that, 8,600 down to 85.50. Excuse me. First level of resistance is coming in around 87.30. Again, I don't see a lot of disbursement here. Talked about disbursement before. That's when we see the order book to the upside being spread very thin. When I see that, I actually get a little bearish because I assume that those orders are intended to be filled. I don't see that there. I see concentration here. I see concentration. We have a fat order in at 87.30 and then up at 87.7, 87.80. I think those levels are likely to be hit potentially today, potentially over the next day or two. All right. Can get rid of that. Let's see here. Significant movements here on the 10-second chart coming in here from AgriTrade. Don't see a whole lot. Almost 419,000 to the sell side over here on GDAX, $615,000 long 38 minutes ago. Somebody, again, I don't really think that is the right move. Selling spot $500,000 at this price level, I don't think is the right move. Big volatile movement to the downside, looking for some retracement here. If we can get it back above 87.10, that would be a good sign. That'd be more than a 50% retracement, and we'll see if we can't stretch for these highs again. All right. Furious Cabbage saying, wow, treasuries plummeting and stocks crashing from a 50 basis point rate cut. The world is ending. Well, here's the thing about that. I don't think that it's enough. I think that there's more than just a Fed rate cut. I mean, the G7 nations at the meeting took a very weak hand approach. They said, we're not going to do any sort of direct financial intervention. But we're totally here. We're going to stand in solidarity. We're going to respond to any crisis. Okay, but what are you guys going to do? They didn't have any plans. They didn't have any follow through. They're just like, we'll be here. So they talk this huge game is the overall sentiment right now, and no follow through. And then the Fed does step in with some action, this 50 basis point rate cut. And I think that that's just very weak sauce, man. I think it's very weak sauce. And I think the market is responding to the fact that that's weak sauce, right? So we've got a lot of news to cover in our crypto currently segment today. So we are going to take a brief 1-minute break, and we'll be right back with today's cryptocurrency segment. All right, let's get into today's cryptocurrency segment. Now, our first story of the day, guys, with just 2 months to go before the Bitcoin halving event, which is going to be arriving in May, global economic conditions are about to make this fundamental event even more exciting. The Federal Reserve has just announced earlier today an emergency rate cut in order to relieve investor and market panic over the emerging crisis that we don't want to name directly. Now, the cut, let's go over here for just a second. Stay here. Now, the cut by 50 basis points means it is the first time the Fed has cut rates by half a percentage point since the financial crisis of late 2008. Now, according to Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, he says the fundamentals of the United States economy remain strong. He said in a meeting with reporters today. However, the spread of this new panic has brought new challenges and risks. Others are noting that interest rates are now at historic lows, meaning that central banks are left with very little wiggle room in the event of a recession or if the economy stumbles further. Now, the Federal Reserve benchmark funds rates will be targeting a rate range between 1% to 1.25%. And of course, Morgan Creek's Anthony Pompliano was quick to comment on this on Twitter, writing that the Federal Reserve just did an emergency rate cut of 50 basis points only 2 months before the Bitcoin halving, I've been saying for a while they were going to cut rates and print money at the exact moment that Bitcoin's supply shock happened. You couldn't write this script. Meanwhile, famous Bitcoin developer Jimmy Song also wrote, stocks go up when the Fed cuts rates because more money gets printed via debt whenever they do. This new money finds its way into store of value like stocks and real estate. Markets are just front running. Bitcoin is now going up as well, solidifying its status as store of value. So, what do you guys think? Is the overall rate cut bullish for Bitcoin, or will we, as I kind of hypothesized earlier, are we still tied too much to the financial markets as a risk-on asset? Are there too many investors in Bitcoin right now who, again, have too much tied to the legacy markets and view Bitcoin as the first to go in the event of an economic downturn? Please let me know in the comment section down below. Now, our second story, this is a follow-up. We covered TRON's takeover of the STEEM blockchain last week. Of course, as we reported on last week, Justin Sun has acquired STEEMit Inc., the company responsible for maintaining the STEEM blockchain, as well as the biggest front-end interface to the chain itself, steemit.com. Now, with this whole situation comes the matter of voting rights. The STEEM community moved to institute a soft fork that blocked the ability of Justin Sun to vote on blockchain governance using his very large stake of STEEM tokens acquired in the purchase of STEEMit Inc. And that takeover has just turned hostile as Justin Sun, together with several major exchanges, executed actions which consolidated power over the governance structure of STEEM. And as of today, the majority of STEEM's witnesses have been ousted and replaced by accounts that appear to be connected to TRON. Now, as far as the way that DPoS, Delegated Proof of Stake, works on the STEEM blockchain, there are witnesses, and you can think of them as block producers on EOS or the mining pools of Bitcoin, but they're the decision makers of the blockchain's governance. Now, Justin Sun, together with major exchanges, including Binance, Huobi, and Poloniex, participated in this takeover using STEEM held in their custody. They delegated those votes to what appears to be an account controlled by Justin Sun based on Block Explorer data. Okay. From there, Justin Sun had the voting power necessary to reorganize the blockchain governance, kicking out the majority of witnesses who opposed this takeover and undid their soft fork that neutralized the voting power of the STEEM Inc.'s cache of tokens. Ned Scott, the founder and former owner of STEEM Inc., commented on the move by TRON, seemingly in support. Oh, the tweet has been removed. Seemingly in support of Justin Sun, stating that witnesses or a portion of the community literally stole STEEMit Inc.'s coins. STEEMit owed them nothing. STEEMit owes no one anything, and anything else is grasping at straws, bullying to get your way. Fact, with no pre-mine, there would have been no investors. So essentially seeming to side with Justin Sun. It seems here that the sentiment is that all of these former witnesses of the STEEMit blockchain did not have the best interest of STEEM in mind. They were only interested in their own profitability or investment status in STEEM. So Justin Sun essentially taking control of this is in the best interest of the blockchain. Seems to be the sentiment from the previous owner of STEEMit Inc., who sold it to Justin Sun. And again, this is kind of the big controversy. Is Justin Sun out to maliciously affect this? This is what the FUD is that Justin Sun has his own, malicious ideas of why he's taking over the community. Whereas, if you listen to Justin Sun's argument, his argument is that no, man, STEEMit, all of the previous witnesses were a den of thieves. They were not making interests in the best decision of the network. And so I have taken control so that I can put this house back in order, is the argument. So really, really interesting developments. What side you fall on it is interesting. Now, the STEEM community is outraged by Scott's comments, as they feel the founder had promised them very, very clear from the very beginning that the coins held by STEEMit Inc. would only be used to further decentralize the blockchain project, and that it would never be used in voting. Essentially, this was known from the very beginning of STEEM, that the STEEMit Inc. had enough tokens to take over the voting, but there was a gentleman's agreement that it would never be utilized. Now, in a letter co-authored by witnesses and major stakeholders announcing last week's soft fork, they said that the Ninja Mine stake is a special case, as up to this point, it has been clearly declared on many occasions as earmarked solely for the development of the STEEM ecosystem and to be non-voting and governance issues. In a statement issued earlier today by TRON, they now intend to use STEEM Inc.'s holdings to vote on blockchain governance matters, as well as thwart the soft fork meant to limit TRON's power, claiming that last week's soft fork was maliciously structured and may be deemed illegal and criminal. They also added, unfortunately, the witnesses' decision created a need to reclaim the stake and vote in new witnesses to usher in new policies for a healthier ecosystem and community. Now, the takeover required Justin Sun to convince major exchanges, including Binance, Huobi, and the Tron-owned Poloniex, to stake the STEEM held in their custody, so a majority vote could be held in order to remove the existing witnesses. Now, CZ, CEO of Binance, received grief from customers unhappy about his support and role in the takeover action, and he has since stated that he will reverse Binance's portion of the vote, although this will likely do little at this point, as the old witnesses have already been removed. Now, with the exchange superpowers pooling their resources together to force through a vote, 20 out of the 21 witnesses on the STEEM blockchain have been sacked, and the witnesses, assuming their positions, are all accounts formed in the last 3 days by what appears to be a single Tron-controlled account. And to top it all off, Steemit.com and SteemD, the major STEEM block explorer, have been experiencing outages throughout the day over the course of the takeover. So, this really brings up an interesting example, because on one hand, listen, here's the thing. If you guys want an idea that the blockchains or the governance structures are secure, if you take a step back and look at this, right? This is a very interesting description of us kind of dealing with this corporate espionage and takeover type scenario in a completely different way. Because the code was incorruptible, right? It wasn't as if the network could just be directly modified, right? Justin Sun just couldn't hack into the system, right? The network is very secure. What he had to do was essentially, use game theoretics and use overwhelming force and the typical way that things go down, convincing other large players to benefit, to support him in his kind of bid for conquest here. So regardless of whether one, agrees with Justin Sun, again, I overall do not. I'm not exactly sure what Tron's interest in the STEEM blockchain is. Now, I will say that I think that STEEM, at least the platform, Steemit, is quite good. Again, you guys can follow us on Steemit. We are over there. I think that it is a fantastic opportunity for people who are already doing kind of blogging and posting articles and all of that kind of stuff, posting news, all of this kind of stuff, to get rewards for doing so in the form of STEEM, which you can turn into Bitcoin, right? It is a free way to get Bitcoin, right? You don't have to buy STEEM. All you have to do is participate in the network, just like you can actually participate in many of these decentralized networks and receive these kind of crypto tokens and exchange them for Bitcoin or hold them as the altcoin. It's your preference on what you think is more valuable. But it's not hard for your average everyday person to earn free Bitcoin. They just have to do things, right? Overall, this system, as opposed to the common systems that we have to engage with and get loyalty rewards, right, on platforms, is very different, because on almost every store, every website, to get loyalty points, to get reward points, you have to purchase something, right? You don't have to purchase anything over on Steem, right? You don't have to purchase anything on Steemit. You just participate in the ecosystem. Over on YouNow, to get props, to get the props token, you don't have to buy anything. You just have to participate in the ecosystem. Here on DLive, which we also rebroadcast to, you don't have to buy anything. You just have to participate in the ecosystem and you get crypto. And what you do with that crypto is on you. It unlocks rewards on the platform. You are incentivized to hold it. You can hold it as a speculative asset, or you can withdraw it and sell it for Bitcoin. It's not hard to get free Bitcoin. And this is what's really, really cool. Even just for me, this is what's really cool about the cryptocurrency space, this is what's really cool about cryptocurrency in general, even as opposed to your traditional Amazon rewards, or JC Penney's rewards, or Victoria's Secret rewards. You got to buy something, right, to get rewards on those things. You don't have to buy anything, right? So now, like it or not, this is the situation. TRON has regained control of STEEM, so we'll just have to watch to see kind of what their plans are. I think that the idea to I don't really know. I don't know how bad it was before. I don't know if Justin Sun wants to do this just for money. I think that he's done a pretty decent job with TRON. I know that Justin Sun's a controversial figure, so I'm definitely not going to say that I support what Justin Sun's doing here. I think that it's just something to watch, and it's a cautionary tale about how to write governance structures, right? So again, the cautionary tale here, you guys have to remember that proof of stake is an experiment, right? So STEEM is proof of stake. It's delegated proof of stake, right? And it has caused these issues. Do you know what doesn't cause these issues? Proof of work, right? Which Bitcoin is on. Now, Ethereum is making this huge bid to move toward proof of stake because they think that it is going to solve the problems. I think that it can solve. I think that they're worried about the wrong problems. Again, I think that Ethereum 2.0 is interesting and exciting. I'm very interested to see what they're going to do with the network. Very interested in their evolution as a very large blockchain project. But we know this to a fault. There's nothing more secure than the Bitcoin network. There's nothing more secure than proof of work. So why will Bitcoin never migrate from proof of work? Unless it wants to fail. Because the role of the Bitcoin network is securing a financial ledger, right? Steem it, Ethereum, TRON, that's not their job, right? Their job is doing other stuff. It is not, they are not in the business of creating a money system, of creating a monetary system. Bitcoin is, and that's why they use proof of work. So as all these new systems, delegated proof of stake, you are giving many centralized control to validators, witnesses, whatever you want to call them, and allowing them to vote on governance issues, the Ethereum Foundation, all of these things, right? Whereas with Bitcoin, you have to participate by hashing and mining. You have to contribute work to the network. You have to secure the network. So I think overall what this says is, proof of stake experiments are cool, but they are an experiment. So, because you can run into issues like this. This wouldn't happen with the proof of work blockchain. So let me know your comments in the section down below. Repetition is good. Like being reminded that if you enjoy the content, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe with the bell icons. We are here live every single day. Now let's go back to the charts. Check in with Monsieur Bitcoin as we continue to kind of drift lazily down here to the downside, currently trading at 86.95, below 8,700 now, getting toward the bottom of the range. Now, let's pull up your user-submitted questions and answers, do the Q&A section. Also, I think that it is high time to open up this chest. People watching on D Live today. Sim City Games, thank you so much for the follow. 6 other followers today over here on D Live. Let's get this lemon drizzle going on today, guys. All right. So question 1 is going to be coming from an anonymous source, and he'd like to look at Matic BTC. All right. So let's take a gander. So Matic BTC on the daily, where are we at overall? We've been in this consolidation range for quite a while. Matic obviously had that huge run up to the upside. It's been consolidating in this very loose range for quite a while. Where are we at right now? We're right back at the top of the range. Let's just go ahead and mark this out. The magnet mode going. And we are right back there. We established support right here. We held that level. We're at the top of the range. I would be cautious on Matic at this point in time. I would be cautious at this point in time because, again, we're at the top of the range. This is only the second test after establishing. All right, so overall, we have to be aware of what we're at. what is one good strategy, that what is one inefficiency in the market that one can exploit as a trader, right? It is breaks of ranges, right? BPCs. So, by the way, over here on DLive, I want to thank Midwest Attempts, Ricky T, Solar MKD, DePie Guy, and Sanic 2 Fest for the wins over there, my friend. Crypto, it's me, Sonny. Thank you so much for the follow, my friend, over there on DLive. So this is definitely a chart to watch. Definitely one you want to put on your watch list to see if we can get this break above 252 sats. That's currently where we're at. We're currently selling off from it right now. Let's throw daily PTP on this and see what we would be doing. The breaking Bitcoin indicator would have had us go long on this right over here on the 28th of February, 2020, getting these nice movements to the upside. We would already hit TP1 just now, I do believe. Yeah, we would already at TP1 just on today's daily candle, looking at higher prices around 268 and 286, continuing to climb to the upside. So this is definitely something I'd watch on the daily. We are struggling to get over this. One thing that one can do in a situation like this is watch the 4-hour, maybe even watch the 2-hour, and kind of see if we can get this BPC at that resistance line, get that nice BPC support and resistance break setup, and look to take prices up from there. We are trying right now, forming a doji on the 2-hour, on the 4-hour, trying to make a nice try up at this. On the daily, this is too overextended for a daily trending signal. Not going to work. But there are different setup potentialities here on the 4-hour. On the 4-hour, we are getting unnatural volume on the 4-hour time frame. Let's see if we can actually get a break of this range. We often are going to get unnatural volume on breaks of ranges. Overall, it's going to matter where we close. Overall, it's going to matter where we close. Daily close above 252 would be good. Right now, if I were trading Matic, I would be taking profit right now and then waiting to see if we do actually flip the support and the resistance, get a nice break of it, and then I'd be looking for a breakout trade. So definitely keep this one on your watch lists, guys. All right. Boris Bitcoin, thanks for the show as always. Can I share my thoughts on PSQ and GLD? Okay, nothing off the top of my head. Let's go check the GLD ETF. Yeah, so again, very similar to UpGold, very similar to Aberdeen as well, having a nice movement to the upside. This is a continuation long signal, particularly here on GLD. Rising Wadatar explosion, back above the back above the line. Now, is this a reactionary movement to the weak hands of the G7? Absolutely. So we want to be cautious with trading into this because we're trading into news, right? We're trading into news. Why are people buying gold? They are buying gold reactionarily because of the weak movement from the G7. Listen, we don't know how this is going to play out yet, guys. We don't know, right? I think that overall we're going to see more drastic pullbacks. In the markets, in traditional markets, we're going to see lower lows, but that doesn't mean that we're going to do it this week or even next week. All right. These things do take time to mature and germinate. And I think overall, this represents a reactionary buyback on GLD, right? I think the market is moving into GLD as a hedge. I think that they're going to be moving into bullion as a hedge, and that's fine. They've been doing that for a while. So overall, the long trend on gold is good. I'm very bullish on gold overall. Do I feel that this is a continuation, or this is an initial signal, from the breaking Bitcoin indicator, from the trading system? You can see here that we're going to get the time transformation crossover on the daily close. Wadatar explosion signal. This is not with sensitive settings. It's with traditional settings. We are closing back above the BB initiator. Let's look at momentum here. Again, time transformation crossing back up. Let's see what Minx is telling us to do. Minx has not crossed back up yet, but it is headed that way. Trending Minx is curled up. It hasn't crossed back above the signal line again. So there's a little bit of hesitancy here. So listen, overall, I think it's a reactionary movement from gold. Not the best environment to trade into, because it can sell off if the market does decide to rally a little bit and move up from here. I don't think we've actually seen a sustained correction rally. I think that we're going to consolidate. So do I think that getting into gold here at this price is the best decision for a trade? No, I don't. Do I think continuing to hold GLD or UpGold or Aberdeen, SGOL, or physical bullion is good for the long term? Absolutely. Investment positions, don't sell. Trade positions, I would be a little wary of this one. I would look for another setup. Very similar. So I see Nakuma saying the same thing, asking me to look at the CFD of gold. Exactly what I just said. Michael Narano asking about Link. So I traded Link. I took advantage of this movement over here, exited up on this wick. Price has pulled back to the support level, pushed back up again. It did end up holding 375, which is good because that is the level that I wanted to see hold, actually stretching from my original take profits now, which is pretty cool to see. Let's get these drawings off there and reanalyze, as it has been a couple of days since I have looked at Link. Link, unfortunately, is still below the baseline. It's actually in a no trade zone. So we need to break 473 for the trending long signal, or we need to close below 389 for a reshorting signal. So this is a no trade zone for me on Link. Boris is also asking about the TLT. iShares Barclay. Let's see here. Yeah, TLT, I'm not going to tell you to buy TLT. We do seem overextended here. Fisher Transform is above -2. That's fairly rare. We are overextended. I would expect to see a pullback. This is the tail end. This is the bell end. Excuse me. This is the tail end of a distribution curve of the Gaussian distribution here on Fisher Transform in time transformation, which it is based off of. I would not be trading TLT right now. Exit signal yesterday. Nice continued follow through. I mean, technically, you are okay to hold your longs. I wouldn't enter in any trades on TLT, right? You've been kind of warned that, hey, we're getting overheated on the TLT. But this is going to continue to move up as investor fears are worried, people moving into bonds. I'm just not buying this reactionary movement based off the G7, okay? So let me just frame everything that I said in gold with the same thing here about Treasury Bond ETF, right? I'm not buying it, right? I'm not going to say that the movement will not continue here. It is overextended here on the daily. But you want to be very careful making trades based off reactionary movements to global events, right? The only reason why people have a right to be worried and expect lower prices. That's fine. And one would assume because of that, the T-notes are going to go up. Okay, makes sense. But doesn't mean that it's a good trade or a good move for you, particularly at these prices. There are better things that are signaling for better hedges, for better movements. Again, already getting sold into quite heavily. I think it's a reactionary movement. Look at that. Even on the 15-minute chart, nice movement to the upside, huge wick. That is that's a classic reversal candle right there. That is a classic trapped investors moving into TLT. So I'd be cautious on this one. I would expect more of a retrace on TLT as I would on 20-year T-notes anyways. And yeah, man, I just don't trade into high fundamental events. The better thing about this, I think, so a better strategy than moving into TLT is sitting in cash, right? And waiting for the market to dip and buy stuff on the cheap. There's going to be a buying spree. I have moved a lot of cash on the side. I am sitting in equity. And I'm telling you right now, if we see 20 or 30% drops in traditional markets, I am going to buy, right? I'm going to buy. All right. Let's see here. We'll do some quick questions. Profit Bear, he hasn't asked a question in a while, my friend. Want to look at Crow USD. So let's look at crypto.com USD here. I bought in on December 3rd. What now? Oh, good move, by the way. So, I mean, listen, I got to be honest with you, man. Exit signal right here on the daily time frame. And we moved into a bearish trend. Unfortunately, Crow USD is in a bearish movement. I am ambivalent as to whether in the macro here, Bitcoin is going to move up or down. I'm watching its range quite closely. I think that it is highly correlated to the SPY at this point in time. And if the SPY decides to fall, I think Bitcoin's going to follow along with it. But I think we're going to see overall consolidation. So I'm overall macro bullish on Bitcoin as we continue to move forward. We're going to see what happens over the next few weeks. What I have to suggest to you right here is this is a long-term position, so we have to look at something like the weekly, right? Or it's a fantastic trade. So even on the weekly, we've lost the bullish trend. Last week gave us an exit signal, and now you're getting a little bit of a retrace to sell at a better price, even getting a weekly reversal candle right here. Again, I think that we have a high potential to see. We have a bullish daily trend back above 6.5 cents. We can flip the daily trend bullish, but we broke down below the daily baseline almost 2 weeks ago, and you're now getting an opportunity for a retest of the baseline. I think this represents not a bad opportunity for you to secure some profits. And again, if you want to just take half and trail your stop loss, that's fine, but this is not something I would be long on. Depai Guy asks, SH, SDS versus SPXU. All three are S&P ETF shorts. My thoughts on the other two, as I've discussed, SH. So I don't really know anything about SXPU. Again, I've never traded it. I've heard of it. I have traded SH and SDS as well as held it. So I would be partial to SH and SDS. They have very low expense rates and they work quite well. Obviously, they're highly liquid, and they're what I'm holding my positions in right now. So I have my large account hedge in SH, which I intend to convert to cash when I feel that the market's fallen enough, and I'll buy stocks and ETFs with that. And SDS is what I'm currently trading right now. All right, with that being said, guys, it is 1:17. We got to head for the door, man. We got to head for the door. I got so much to do today. All right, thank you guys so much for joining me for another fantastic episode of Breaking Bitcoin. If you guys enjoyed the content, make sure to subscribe to the channel. If you hit the bell icon, you will be alerted when we go live. Otherwise, you won't. Subscriptions don't matter here on YouTube, but they do help the channel out. Make sure to smash the like button. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, sarcastic remarks, and/or death threats on YouTube, please leave them in the comment section down below. You'll be able to do so about 30 seconds after the video or the stream is concluded. Shout out to all my friends watching on Twitch and DLive as well. I hope all of you go on to have an absolutely fantastic day. Shout out to partners X42 and Spectre Security Coin. Hope they're crushing it over there as well. BTC charts are looking good. If you guys are beginning your journey to consistently profitable trading and you would like help, guiding, and mentorship along the way, make sure to check out everything that we do at premium.crackingcryptocurrency.com. My name is Justin Wise, lead analyst and senior mentor at CC. I will be back tomorrow at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time for another episode of Breaking Bitcoin. You guys have been awesome. Trade safely. Oh, they're going to kill me if I don't mention it. Of course, make sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter if you want to stay up to date on all the latest. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Cheers.